For those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Withers, and joining me on this podcast is my friend Kiera from Creative Weddings Byron Bay. Hey, Kay.
Hey.
Welcome to the, actually, take this the right way. Welcome to the worst episode of this podcast ever. And what I mean by that is not a reflection on you at all, but it's the first one. It's like, from here, I'll get more confidence and better, and people will listen to it and give us ideas. So, not that this is bad, but just I hope this is the worst one ever. There's like, we're just upwards from here.
I'm happy to be your first. I'll be gentle.
Yeah, second woman in the world to tell me that. Oh gosh, I thought it'd be worth for everyone listening, watching, to just kind of give a bit of a synopsis on what this podcast is, because I've been very deliberate in wanting to do it, and also very deliberate in not wanting to do it. It's been a bit of a thing for me to get over that. I'm like literally, I texted a friend who's like a well-known wedding photographer. He's like, just what the world needs, another two white blokes on a podcast talking. I actually do hear that. That's why I haven't done this in years. And like, I've tried a few podcasts and I just always have felt a bit discouraged. But I'm not doing it today to be another white guy on a podcast talking. And the reason this podcast exists is because I just want to have conversations around weddings that aren't necessarily controversial or about oh gosh, weddings, screw them, like they're horrible, they're the worst, but also because I feel that's a lot of the mainstream media conversation around weddings. Like I probably get a phone call once a month from Daily Mail or something like that, and they want to know about the crazy wedding story or the wedding disaster. I'm like, not every wedding is crazy or a disaster. So I wanted to try and bring just like a normalization to the fact that weddings are awesome. And I know a bunch of people that also believe weddings are awesome, that people getting married is good, and that a wedding can be and should be meaningful and honest and awesome and just true. It can also be something, I'm going to struggle with the right word here because I don't want to kind of shoehorn ourselves, but it can be, when I say awesome, not just awesome in vibe and feel, but it can be this awesome event, which is why I've always appreciated working with you at weddings, because the fact that you're gathering, say, 100 odd of your favorite humans can be kind of elegant and beautiful and cool and like fancy, but it can also, in that same realm, be honest and not playing dress up. You know what I mean? Some weddings are like playing dress up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a bit showy for some people.
Yeah. Whereas I feel, and I'd actually like to hear if you've got like a brand kind of ethos or like I do these kind of weddings, because I feel that the weddings I've done with you they're good, like they're cool venues and they've got cool, cutlery, I don't know, whatever. It's like cool, but it's also, it's not wanky and it's not showy and it's not stupid. It's not the kind of weddings they talk about in media on news.com.au.
You're giving me good taglines. Cool and not wanky. That's me.
I'll jump onto your website and edit it while you're talking, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had the vision of my weddings being personal and not showy.
That's the
like
word.
they're beautiful and all the elements look lovely, but I pride myself on the whole experience. So you could have the best wedding day and the most awful experience. And every time you think of your wedding, you're going to be like, oh, the day was great, but the planning was stressful, yada, yada, all of that. And I think as soon as I'm on board, I want to keep them in that newly engaged bubble right up until the day. Take the stress off them, make it a really nice and easy process, build their dream team based on their vision and their budget, and just have an awesome and epic day. And so I don't know what tagline that is, but I'll go cool and not wanky.
You could probably get the domain name if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's such a fine line to walk. I submit myself to enough wedding Facebook groups and like Reddit subreddits, and everyone's talking about a budget and a budget and affordable. And I find those words really funny because you get two people. I'm not even, just two different people. Their version of a cheap, say, wedding photographer, they're two different numbers. Like they're going to come up with two different numbers. And at one end of the scale, someone's like, a cheap wedding photographer is definitely like 15, 17 grand. Like that's on the cheap end. And then you just pull like another person out of the crowd and they're like, cheap wedding photographer, I'm thinking like $350 to $400. So there's all these terms get thrown around, but personal is one that often isn't fully understood, because personal is a reflection of who you are as a person and obviously now as a couple, which is just what a wedding's supposed to be. I've always advocated that it's just the two of you saying this is who we are, and that's actually a really hard place to get to without a wedding planner, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. And going into wedding planning, you don't know what you don't know. So when you're starting to research, it's like, I want this venue and I want this photographer and all of these vendors. And they're like, oh, I've booked my vendors, I'm done. But it's about making them all work together because they wouldn't necessarily understand how to fill in those gray areas between the timings of everything and how it all works
That
together as a
cohesion.
whole.
Like it's I'm thinking of I think it was MasterChef. They used to do the whole you could just go into the like the pantry. Do you remember that part of
Yeah.
MasterChef? And like you could put whatever you want from the pantry, but you're then gonna make something from it. And like you can jump onto localweddingdirectory.com or whatever and put like get Josh and Kiera. I'm like, cool, I've got all the best ingredients. I've got the best carrots and I've got the best flour. I don't know. Got the best coriander. Oh, heck, you used to be a chef, so you can probably talk to this better than me. But you know, just because you've got a kitchen bench full of like A-grade ingredients, organic, you know, grain-fed, that's still not maketh a wedding.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just the same as like something that I would cook and I give my mum the recipe and then she just butchers it. You know, it's the same recipe, same ingredients. Sorry, mum, but same ingredients. And it's just, you know, if you don't know how to put it all together and how it all works in what timing, it can really fall apart.
You know, something that I always recognize between a wedding planner wedding and a planned by the couple wedding, and here in Australia, like a wedding planner wedding is, I don't know if you know any stats. I feel it's under half. I'm guessing, yeah, maybe 40-30% of weddings would be like we've got a wedding planner, so not a wedding coordinator from the venue, that the venue, because their job is different to a wedding planner. They might play a few wedding planner roles, but their job is more so, hey, please don't burn our venue down. We're going to do our utmost to make sure this place is still intact at the end of the night. But when you've got like a dedicated wedding planner like yourself, like that, in Australia, it's less common than say America, where it's very common to have a wedding planner. So where I was going with this is that when I work a wedding planner wedding, I always hear back from those couples in the days after the wedding, like, hey, thanks so much. And they leave a review and they make a comment on something that I did, because they're actually in the headspace to do that. I don't know, I'm just going to make it, and I'm going to say half of the weddings that aren't wedding planner planned, I often feel like they walk away from their wedding, whew, got that done, like it's like completing a task. Like just before we started recording, I had to get my eldest daughter to, it's her job every morning to vacuum the windows because there's condensation in the windows. We got a little window vacuum cleaner, and every morning it's like pulling teeth. Wedding shouldn't be a chore that you've got to complete, or this task. Like, oh gosh, thank God we finished that wedding. Because of that, I like a large number of couples that just plan their own weddings. I don't hear from them afterwards. Like I'll kind of send one email, a text, not to harass, but just like, hey, like we did a really cool special thing. Just checking in, you know, your marriage certificate. Just I know, just kind of. Are you still alive? Did you make it out of the night alive?
Did
And
the
I've always
venue
put
burn down?
did the venue burn? Did the wedding coordinator fail? It's a really, really strange dichotomy, and I should put it down to a psychological thing I heard a while ago, which is there's a study done where if they put the person's hand in hot water, like boiling hot water, and they would leave them there for a minute. Then the second part of the study, at the back half of the minute, they would cool it a little bit less, like by 1 degree. Just put like a dash of cold water in there, and I'm not going to go into the depths of the study because I can't remember it all. But the takeaway was that if something ends slightly better, you walk away with a more positive feeling about the entire thing. So people are like, oh, the boiling water wasn't that bad. It's like, oh, cool, because for the last 15 seconds, it was a little bit cooler. And I often feel like that with weddings, that because I'm at the start, or not at the start, but I'm at the start of the proceedings. You know, obviously there's hair, makeup, etc. ahead of me. But I'm kind of first cab off the rank, and then stuff happens through the night. You know, I'm not gonna, but we can spend the rest of the podcast listing the things that happen after. But sometimes those things just maybe kind of tank the day a little bit, or the execution of the wedding, or the planning, or maybe it was because your uncle was emceeing and he started doing speeches while the videographer had a steak in his mouth, or whatever it is. Just whatever things went on. And like they kind of walk away from the wedding not feeling 100% positive. Whereas when they've got someone like you, it looks like you kind of fill that gap a little bit and make it a little bit more smooth sailing for the couple.
Yeah. And it's exhausting afterwards for the couple. It's decision fatigue. It's getting through it and just going, oh my God, like that was exhausting. And it was like what I said before, you could have a great day, but then if the lead up was no good, then it's hard afterwards to decompress and to And then they don't know what to do with themselves afterwards as well, because they're so deep in the planning mode that they feel like, what do I do with my life now? And then they just sort of fall flat on their face.
Yeah, crikey, it's a whole other thing, isn't it? Like you go from
Yeah.
getting married to being married.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you haven't really thought that through, it's kind of hard to change trains.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just so consuming for that time period that you're organizing all of, and it's not that people can't plan a wedding. Obviously, people plan weddings all the time, but it's just about how you get there and if it's intact or not.
Yeah. Gosh, talking about intact, I've got a topic for you, and I find the most qualified people to talk about wedding photography are people that aren't wedding photographers. So you and I are more than qualified to talk about this, and I'll allow you to save as much as of your industry cred as you like. You can bow out if you need to, but there was I saw a post on Threads in the last week. I'll just read it verbatim. Another wedding ruined on film, with a photographer trying to pass it off as art. I wonder if the bride will see her green photos with developer streaks on them as art. Where was the film purchased and developed? And they named the company, which is apparently a company you shouldn't go to get your film developed. And I wasn't really here to bomb film photographers because there's so much film photography that is beautiful. Like it's a fascinating art. Because I do photography. I've got cameras sitting around my desk and I just love to make photos. But I am so aware of the fact that I'm not talented enough to be a film photographer. I have paid enough money to film development labs to know that I suck, which is why you don't find film photography on my website or photography at all. I'm aware of my lack of skills, but I wanted to get your vibe on film photography as a product at weddings, and you're consulting a couple, and they've happened to open up TikTok and they've seen the words film photography. What's your kind of guiding light through that world?
I think it's a personal choice, film photography, and I'm going to be super controversial, but I'm not a massive fan of it. I think it's a little bit overrated, and it just can, if it's done incorrectly, it can make everything look just really washed out. And I think you choose a photographer based on shooting and editing style. And I think it completely changes the way that the end product looks as opposed to what the photographer uses in their equipment. So my personal take is I think it's great. If you like it, go for it. But I think it kind of takes away from the talent of the actual photographer. And I don't know how that's going to sit in the photography world. I think that maybe that's a bit controversial, but if the couple loves it, then go for it. I just think it's a nice little add-on if you like it.
Okay, I'm going to prepare you to keep on sinking boats while we're playing Battleship. You're getting married this afternoon, and you've got to choose a wedding photographer now, which is obviously not at all how weddings and wedding photography booking works. But it's a fantastical world where every wedding photographer is available this afternoon, and money is of no interest to you because you're obviously loaded. You're getting married this afternoon. Who's shooting your wedding and why?
I've got 3 that are standouts.
Okay, are you gonna be Brit? You're gonna have 3 photographers at the same time?
We're going to have 3 photographers. I think I really love editorial style photography. I think it's really beautiful and clean. And I think when photographers over edit and make it super dark or super pastel, like I'm just not a fan of that. We're going Bieber style. I go Bailey Bettelago. Love her.
Oh, Bailey's in. Bailey,
Yeah.
Bailey's been going as long as I have. I remember seeing
Yes.
her name when I was first, like she'd be going for at least 15 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Legend as well.
Amazing. Cassandra LeDroux
Yep.
and
Cassandra.
Megan Kelly.
Gosh, you got the squad.
Yeah.
They're all Southeast Queensland, aren't they? Are they all South or Northern New South Wales?
Sort of Brisbane,
Yeah.
Brisbane, Gold Coast, Byron sort of areas.
You're showing your bias.
Yeah.
You're not going to reach out into not going to go across the Pacific?
No, they're
Love
my
it.
favorites. Sorry, everybody else on my list, but while we're playing Battleship.
Good choices. I would support those choices. It's funny, Brit has changed her mind quite a few times. Like she'll often make a comment like, "Oh, if we were getting married today, you'd be my celebrant, you'd be my photographer," and because she has good taste in wedding stuff. It's funny. I obviously do have somewhat of a taste because I've seen a lot of wedding photos, but I probably am a lot more. When I say emotional, I don't mean like emotional, but like emotion driven in how I see photos and videos, like how I felt in that moment. Like I saw a wedding photo yesterday, and I, like, my first thought upon seeing it as it was delivered, I'm like, oh wow, that's a photo from the beginning of my third wedding ceremony at this villa in Umbria in Italy. And I'm like, how many people in the world have done the same wedding venue in Umbria and Tuscany? And this loser from Australia has done it 3 times. And like, I felt really emotional. And I was going to post it. I'm like, oh, that's a wanky post. I'm not going to post that.
Flex, not many people from Australia can, have that as one of their top places they've done. Yeah, I mean, gosh.
It's
I
cool.
say do it.
Yeah. I struggle with social media because everything I got to post, I feel like a wanker. Even, you know what, in regards to this podcast.
You're like the world-renowned, celebrity.
Celebrity, sure.
Everyone's seen the Today Show, right?
I'm always calling people back, like, guys, I'm going to the coffee shop if you want to send a tap. I'm wearing slippers, and it's going to be a fantastic
Start
photo.
calling it in.
Gosh. No, so the reason I hesitate on social is everyone takes it a different way. Like, so even for this podcast, I don't know if you saw my post. I did a Facebook and Threads post like, hey, who are some of the most interesting voices in the wedding industry at the moment? Because the question I'm asking is like, oh, I'd like to talk to interesting people. I know interesting people. Also, it'd be cool to open that net a little bit wider. And there's people just who maybe aren't on my direct radar, people I maybe already know, or people that are outside of my realm. Like, there's a lot of weddings happening. Like 120,000 people got married in Australia last year. I don't reckon I know all the people that created those weddings. Anyway, so I asked the question, and indirectly by a few people and directly from 2 people, they're like, the basic vibes, people read it as I was seeking praise and like hoping people would say me, and or someone also thought that I was kind of saying, but there's no one interesting in the wedding industry. I'm like, oh no, it's in black and white words. I asked who was interesting. So I know, I just always feel social media has always been taken different ways. And I also wonder, like, how do couples, like, if you're not getting married in an Italian villa today, you don't care that I've done 3 weddings in the same Italian villa. Like, no one cares. So anyway, I
care, Josh.
Thank you.
I love seeing it.
If you see a social media post from me, know that I have spent the last 15 years thinking about that post.
I will live vicariously through you and your travel.
That's good. It's a blessing to do what I do. I feel really graceful. Really grateful is the word I was looking for, to do what I do. It's kind of cool. Going back to photography styles, I just want to share a funny anecdote from a couple recently, and I want to hear how often you hear the words candid. You hear the word candid a couple of times per wedding?
Yeah.
I did want to, I suppose, bring a bit of a not a photographer opinion to it, because I did a wedding recently, and they told the photographer they just went candid. And then, so my thing when I finish a ceremony is, because I've already been a voice in the ceremony, somewhat of like not an authority, but like I had the microphone, I'll help the photographer lead into the group photos or family photos, or whatever is going to happen. I'll help them lead into that. I won't suppose anything, but I'll chat to the photographer and say, hey, do you want to do a group photo? And honestly, for those of you listening that don't know or think this, I think a group photo is a good way to segue from the ceremony to family photos, because it just gets everyone together. It lets them know there's these family photos happening now. It's not like the group photo is for anything. If you want a group photo, get it. It's a fine, great photo. But some people are like, oh, we don't want a group photo. And I just think logistically, sometimes it's a nice flow. But anyway, I'm not here to force group photos. But yeah, so the photographer said, yeah, we'll do that. And I said to the couple, hey, do you want to do this? And they said, oh, no. We just want candids, just candids. I'm like, okay. So I just kind of communicated to the photographer. He's like, okay. And then over the next hour, they kept on wanting to have specific photos with different family members. I'm like, oh, that's what family photos are.
Now it's going to take twice as long to help gather everyone.
But yeah, I find the candids thing a kind of a funny conversation we're in at the moment in wedding world.
Yeah. It's funny when I see albums back, and you can see when they've had that conversation and everything's kind of just like, it's all candid, and I don't love the posed looks, but I like intentional photos. And when people can misinterpret what candid is, and that could be like somebody in the like half laughing and it's not the most attractive angle of them. But that's candid, as opposed to, having a giggle together, but they're positioned in a way that you would want to hang on your wall. Like, it's two different views of what Candid can be. And so I think that when you're booking a photographer, having those conversations about the end product as opposed to feeling comfortable on the day, because most couples hate, they say, I'm feeling really uncomfortable in front of the camera, we're awkward, we're this and that. And, a good photographer can get those shots without them making them, feeling awkward on the day as well. So I think just having that open conversation with them is really important.
I always think about, and just going to prefix this by saying this is not me flexing, but the first season of Married at First Sight, I was the celebrant on, and I hated it, by the way. If you ever watch back those videos, just know that I'm just like dying and cringing. Not actually from the Married at First Sight thing, just from the being filmed thing. And because I walked into Married at First Sight thinking it was like a really awesome, nice, cool thing. It's gone in other directions in seasons that I haven't been involved in. But anyway, the director, God bless her, she was like the best person. Because obviously she knows she's directed a show or two before. And she's looking at me and she's like, this guy's hating it. And he's hating being directed. Because what they were doing is, if I was holding, say, a thing in front of me, that's I hold it higher, hold it lower, and they're like, move left, move right, like, move your left shoulder around, swivel, whatever. And we had to do the same ceremony 4 or 5 times each, and I just hated every minute of it. Because I am, I'm a few things. I'm human. I'm a 43-year-old baby, and I am just have my varieties of insecurities and anxieties and etc. Just I think just a normal level like everyone does, but just just those things where I reckon maybe the director hates me. That's why she keeps on telling me to turn around a different way. Anyway, she pulled me aside and she goes, "Hey, I can see you're not really enjoying different parts of this." And she goes, "I just want you to know that we all want you to win. We all want you to look amazing on screen. And we want the show to sound great and for the show to be great and for people to watch the show and to love the show and to love you. And that's why I'm directing you." I'm like, oh, crikey, she doesn't hate me. She wants me to be awesome. And I wish I could tell couples that. And I know some photographers have conversations to that degree, but I will. Without knowing who your photographer is and without knowing the two of you getting married, I'm willing to bet that your photographer probably wants you to look awesome, probably wants you to win, and probably wants you to feel comfortable and great. And so if they direct you in some way, it's in that spirit. Yeah?
Yeah. And, you've booked the photographer based on what you've seen online as well. And that might not always be your direction. So when you're saying, I want Candid, but then you've booked them based on their own style, like you kind of have to put the trust in the vendors and to do what they do best as well. So it's sort of letting go of the reins a little bit and just, allowing them to do what they do.
Yeah. I always feel so blessed. Like, it's funny, you list those names of the girls before and like, oh, there are some talented photographers out there. Like, there's some just people that I'm so glad to call friends. We're actually surrounded by some great talent in Australia. Like, you go global and, I do a lot of work overseas and people over there name photographers back here and they follow their work, they're inspired by them, they want to be like them. And obviously we see it every year that different photographers and videographers and celebrants and whatnot, like we get flown around the world because what we do in Australia is really unique and really special. We're a real world leader in the wedding industry, which I don't think people realize here at home.
What's your Bieber list? What's your top 3 if you could have 3 photographers at your wedding this afternoon?
3 photographers this afternoon. Because like I said, I like the emotional, like how I feel. Like, I want it to feel really good in the moment. And there's also obviously types of photography I like. Like my friend James Day, I've been shot by him a very small handful of times. Like, he's done a few weddings, we've done a few weddings together, and then I think he's taken photos of Britt and I. I like his shooting style. Like, I think he's a blessing to the industry. Just the vibe that he brings to a shoot is really unique. And so I'll say James Day. I've always loved, I'll say another friend, Harley from Bob Creative. I love his photos. He's obviously a nice guy, lovely, like good guy. But I've loved like when he makes photos of us. I've liked them. And third, I feel like I'm just now going to offend someone by not mentioning them because they're all so many great people.
Playing Battleship, remember that.
We're playing Battleship. I've always enjoyed being shot by our friends Luke and Mallory in Portland, in Oregon. They do cool work as well. I'll say them just to just to hedge a bet against the 10 million other photographers I love that I haven't mentioned.
It's funny you say Bold Creative because I actually haven't worked with them before. And I've got on my notes, like next to me, I came across them. One of my couples said, I want a quote from them. And I looked them up and wrote their name down to put them on my list immediately. And that's very hard. Like, I get approached a lot by different photographers wanting to be recommended and that sort of thing. And I have like a private directory on my website that I share with the couples for my hand-picked vendors, and I keep that very tight. And Bold Creative, I was just like, wow, okay, these guys are like awesome. So shout out
Harley,
to them.
Harley offends me in this way that it really pisses me off that he just kind of he didn't just glide into photography, but I feel like he just kind of glided into photography, and then he's just like really talented, and it seems really effortless, which really pisses me off.
We hate people like that. We have to bust our asses to
Yeah,
like work
I'm
up the
like,
ladder.
yeah, I'm trying really bloody hard here. I'm like watching YouTube videos. I'm reading things. Like Harley's just like flippantly being awesome. I'm like, screw you, man.
So not shout out to Harley. Screw you, man. You're off the list.
Harley's good people. We
Yeah.
love Harley. So you know what, Harley and I, we've been to Iceland together, New Zealand 10 million times. We've done America together for
10
weddings and
million.
elopements. 10 million, yeah, no, that's an exact number as well. That's not a made up number.
Literally, yeah.
We actually can't do any more weddings together because that's the full quota for how many weddings you can do together
Yeah.
yeah. You can't do any
You
more.
you reach your quota.
Crikey. I wanted to talk about planning, kind of really hone in on planning. I know you're talking about that there's a reality of what planning looks like for couples and how expectations come in, whether that's their own. I feel like a lot of people walk into weddings with these expectations of themselves and what their wedding would look like. Actually, side note, not to bomb entire gender, but I feel like men sometimes are the harder ones at wedding planning because they kind of have this expectation of like, oh, when I get married, it'll look like this. And like I'll have all my mates from work, they're all the mates from the footy club, and it'll be like 4,000 people, and they kind of and they aren't always fully equipped to talk about the reality of that. But yeah, so they bring these expectations, and whether it's Instagram, Chris, family, that kind of thing, and trying to navigate that and the feelings around that is not really talked about a whole lot. How do you kind of join that conversation and trying to help people not hate the process?
Well, that's why I've started my own podcast about it, speaking with brides specifically, because generally the bride's kind of taking the lead with it. And I find that brides are usually big picture. So they focus on the aesthetics, the photography, hair and makeup, like how things look, and grooms tend to go guest entertainment, food, drink, and how much is this thing going to cost me? Yeah, and so
Photography's how much?
yeah, or flowers, like
Or
no
flowers,
one's spending, and they usually sort of argue around the styling because they're just like it's not necessary and whatever. Anyway, I'm generalizing, but I find that social media plays a huge role in the expectation versus reality. The industry is such a curated, beautiful looking industry from the outside. You see all these amazing photos and styles and everything online, and people go, I want my wedding to look like that. And they focus on that side of things. But when you get stuck into the planning side and you start having opinions coming at you, and like family dynamics that you have to work with, and the stress factors, and doing this full-time job on top of your full-time job, and managing two families and all of your normal life stuff, especially if you don't have the help, it's like you're thrown into this world of hardcore admin, all these questions coming at you, you're not sure how to navigate it all, and you can soon it can pop that engage bubble, and you can be like, this is fucked. Like I'm hating this process. And that's when people say, I just want it to be done. And then they don't know how to research properly on what things should be costing, what they can do without, how they can get their vision across without breaking the bank. Like I had a meeting with one of my brides the other day, and we're going through her styling, and I put together a styling brief initially. And she wanted to have a meeting about how she wanted to cut some costs. And so I went through with her and I just went, it's like line by line. And I said, this is going to make a huge impact if we change this, but this is what we can do to not change the vision. Like, for example, she was like, oh, should we use the included chairs for the ceremony? And I said, well, they're white and you've got these natural oak chairs. And so with your vision, that's going to look very different to the overall vision that you have originally. So what we can do is we can tweak these other areas that we can, and we brought down the budget for her without sort of changing the overall vision. And it's just about understanding how to do all of that. And, you can really just get caught up in the negative aspect through the planning. It can take that joy from it. So it's so important just to have the right team around you.
Yeah. The joy of planning a wedding is that you're getting married. And when I say young, I don't mean necessarily age, but like young in relationship, like, because that's generally where a wedding happens. Like there's this, you've decided to proceed to the next level. And so there's this joy in it. But what often comes with that youthfulness is that you're still young in maybe decisions around money or budgets or values. Even when I say value, I don't mean money value, but like, what do people like us value? Like as a couple, like what are our values? Like, is the color of the chair matching? Like, is it one of our values? Because it can be. It's a valid value, but isn't one of ours. And to know those things, it kind of requires the journey, to sit down to go through it. And I'm always glad that people might have a planner like yourself to kind of hold their hand through that, because it can be a bit of a rough ride, even just as a couple, just trying to figure out how do people like us do things like this. Because if you talk, like, some of my favorite clients are ones that are like second marriage and they're in their 50s and they're like, we know who we are. We have figured this shit out. Whereas obviously a younger couple, like, it's not an indictment on any of those people. It's just like, that's just where you are in life. You've never gotten 100 people in the same room together. It's a bit of a daunting task.
Yeah. And understanding those values right at the beginning helps dictate that budget as well. So when we're sort of going through the planning side of things, I get the couple to write out what their non-negotiables are, what the most important elements are, the way that they want the wedding to feel. So if you want to walk in and have it feel like a family barbecue, but just fancy, what are the elements that we can incorporate to make it feel like that, whether that's music or some sort of guest entertainment or really cool cocktails or just that vibe and that energy. A lot of couples get just like, I just want the ceremony to be done. We're really nervous. We don't want to talk about our feelings. But then I explain, that's why you're there. That's what makes a wedding. That's like the whole point. Otherwise, it's just a fancy party. And my favorite part is matchmaking a celebrant with the couple. And that's why, when we have these discussions, I know immediately who I'd recommend for them based on their personalities, based on the style of ceremony. And what I love, and I'll just give you a little plug here, but what I love about your ceremonies is it's not, you're not reading from a script. And, it's so fine for certain celebrants to do that.
100%.
But I find that it brings that feeling to the day, and you've got the gift of the gab. And that's why I love your ceremonies. And you'd be my top list. If it was getting married this afternoon, it'd be you, Bailey, Cassandra, Megan.
The dream team. So that's a good segue into how I want to wrap up the podcast today, because we've talked about the well-rated, 3 and myself. Give us an underrated, just something. I'm not going to, it's an underrated something in the wedding industry. It can be a style, a trend, a vendor, a venue, a thing. What's your opinion, the most underrated thing in the wedding vibe today?
What's underrated is the way that the staffing on the day doesn't get looked into when people are planning. So they've got all their vendors, but then they want a cheap catering company or something like that. But that's like that's the manpower on the day. That's how it's going to make it run really smoothly and on time. So like the staffing in the catering team is highly under when it comes to.
It's really hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's people just, it's not thought of, people just assume that it's all going to run, and you can have one coordinator that will run the whole day, and it's just like they need to work alongside the staffing. So I know that's such a boring answer, but
no, it's real.
It's real.
real story. A friend of mine took a job managing a venue recently, and she's just quit. Actually, gone back to her old job. The reason being, so it's a cool venue, cool place. Like it's good, it's cool, it's awesome. Food's good. It's like everything is good there. But she really had trouble staffing it up, and there was a staffing issue that she wasn't as empowered to work around, aka fire someone. It just, politics in business and staffing and people who are sleeping with each other. And that was a impediment to her not just keeping the staff she had, but hiring more good staff. She would literally post a thing like a local Facebook group, like, hey, looking for people. People would just like laugh, react to it.
They didn't go to the Coldplay concert, did they?
No, it wasn't that one. And so she just couldn't get staff. And so she didn't believe she could do what her job was to run that venue really well and to bring it up. And so she quit because she's like, I can't do this. Because it's all well and good to have 4 walls and a roof and it's painted nicely. It's well styled. It's got a cool website, cool social, all the things, But she just couldn't get great staff to run the place, to work. And it was an impediment, like, because when she was looking at taking the job, I said, oh yeah, you'll kill it there, because I took the girls there for lunch one day, and the staffing really impeded the lunch experience. Like, lunch was great, so there was a cool venue, but for example, it was empty. I walked in, like, we got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, so we don't have lunch at midday. We kind of sometimes have lunch a little bit before midday, and so we walked in, like, I think they opened 11. We walked in at 11:15. Place is empty. There's not a single person there. The lunch crowd's about to pour in, and they're like, have you got a reservation? Like, no. I said, have you got a table free? Jokingly, because like every table's free. They're like, oh, I don't know. I think it looks like you got tables free. I understand there's reservations. We're not. We've got 2 kids. We'll be out of here in 3 minutes, But yeah, it was just like the entire flow of staff was just not great. And it really impeded my view of the venue until she started managing it. And then she's obviously left because she can't get good staff. So staffing, the human resources, even at a wedding, are valuable and important. If it doesn't matter if it's the best caterer in town, if the chef's an arsehole.
Yeah. And you're only as good as the team around you as well. You could do an amazing job. So for like your job, you've got all the equipment, you're there, you're doing your thing. If, the transport company is running late, the bride doesn't arrive. If something else doesn't happen, then it impacts on your job. And so you've really got to put that trust in the team around you as well. And just, yeah, I think just the staffing on the day, but also like the setup, pack down, like all of that. It's the manpower that is not looked at initially. So get good staff.
Yeah, so it's not just quality of like as in friendliness or kind of humanity, but also can they be set up before the guests arrive? Like I've seen more and more florists recently still setting up as like guests are sitting down. Like, no, mate, that needs to have happened like an hour ago. Like I was hearing it, like my PA system was set up before anyone was here. Like I don't want to be setting up my PA system in front of people. Like that's...
Yeah. And even the movement while guests are there. Like I was dealing with a photo booth company, and I said you have to pay the extra, what's called an idle time, that they come in earlier, set up their gear, and then leave and come back when it's about to go live. And so you don't want to be pulling photo booths in while the guests are having their cocktails. There's all these moving parts that you don't, it impacts the whole experience, and you can do it. Guests are going to be like, well, was that forgotten? Or that kind of just takes away from the flow of how the day feels as well.
Yep. No, I've seen a photo booth company setting up during the ceremony, and I'm like, mate, just read the room.
The truck's backing in with the beeping noise.
Gosh. Okay, it's always a pleasure to see you and to talk to you. Let's give you some plugs. Tell everyone about your podcast and how they can find it, and also your socials and website, so that people, if they want to get married in Byron Bay and get the best planner in town, they can get you.
Well, I'm sure we can pop it all in the show notes, but my podcast is Dear Future Bride and Creative Weddings Byron Bay.